Hello everyone, Jason and Leia back here again, and today I am going to be finally talking about Arcane League of Legends Season 2. With the conflict between Zaun and Piltover continuing on, Jinx finds herself in the midst of all this chaos while Vi and Caitlyn are on a trail to try and find her and turn her in. All while Jace and Victor are now going their separate ways after what happened during the previous season in the finale, and Mbessa is using all of their disadvantages to her advantage in order to gain as much power from Piltover as she can. If you saw my review of Season 1, you would know that I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a brilliant piece of television, and it is one of the best animated things ever I have seen in such a long time. From the story, the characters, the animation, the action, just everything about it just worked in harmony. So I was interested to know what the show is going to be like with Season 2, because I love the first season so much that I was unsure on how they were going to be able to top what they did here. And while there are elements of Season 2 that I did admire more than in Season 1, I think for the most part I prefer Season 1 over Season 2. But that isn't to say that Season 2 is a bad season in general. I still loved so much of this second season that it just made some of its missteps a lot more egregious than in Season 1. Season 2, it's just a lot more apparent that this is not a perfect season and that there are a few flaws. But to praise the show first, I still love the animation and the style of this show. It is beautiful to look at. The watercolor-like imagery here and the moving painting-like visuals of this whole show just worked beautifully for me and for this steampunk aesthetic that the show is going for. I bought into this world of Piltover in every single minute it's on screen. This entire world feels so lived in, felt so visceral and vibrant. It is just a beautiful world to try and explore and to also be a part of. But it's not just the world of Piltover and Zaun that the show does a good job visualizing with its animation. I love the various style changes when it's dependent on a type of scene that is going for, or a type of tone that is trying to strive for, and how those stylizations help visualize the story without dialogue, I found were some of my best and favorite parts of the entire season. For one example, the opening of Season 2, we have a flashback of Silco and much of the crime lords of Zaun at a table, and then we see as each of the three members who are dead get picked off one by one in order when they die, and we see how Jinx is the one responsible for all this, as she is walking in the midst of all this chaos that is looming all around her due to her actions. It is a great piece of visual storytelling that the animation and the production design just does a good job at visualizing. And the show, especially this season, does a whole lot of that, where it just does a lot of visual storytelling and you get what is going on due to what the characters are emoting at the moment, or just how they look at each other, or even the directing, how a scene is directed and how it is told, like in this opening scene. This season does a beautiful job at that, and I have to admire the direction for that. The action is also a whole lot better too. It's a lot more visceral, it's a lot more brutal, violent, and a lot more epic, especially with this grand finale. It's no spoiler that there was going to be a big finale at the end of this season. We saw it in many of the trailers, and I was unsure on how everything was going to wrap up. And I think the way this finale was able to conclude all of our character storylines, from Jace, Victor, Vi, Caitlyn, Jinx, and Mel, to a certain extent. I think this finale, for the most part, does a good job at that and brought everything to a satisfying conclusion. While not giving a happy ending for everyone, there's still a sense of finality to what has happened before, especially with the characters of Vi, Caitlyn, and Jinx, and how their storyline concluded by the end of this season. Which brings me along to the characters of the show. I still think the show does a good job at portraying its characters and developing them from season 1. While I do prefer the characterizations from season 1, I think they were a lot more compelling and a lot more engaging as characters in the first season. The second season, for the most part, still was able to bring these characters full circle, have them have a lot of badass moments, and have you unsure as to whose side they are on or what's going on with them. And you understand many of their decisions and what they're trying to gain from certain events, but you can tell that they are driven a lot more by rage and emotion this time around. This is a very emotional season that is very much a stark contrast with season 1, where it's a lot more dialogue focused, a lot more politically focused on the world of Piltover and how things are changing around this world with the discovery of the Arcane. So this is everything comes to a head, all the consequences from season 1 now coming forward into season 2, and how the characters are trying to deal with that. And they deal with that in many different ways. With Caitlyn, it's vengeance. Vi is still trying to reach for her sister despite her being so far gone. And Victor and Jace are conflicted now with each other in terms of how they want to use this technology that they have been working on for so many years. The Hex Gates, the Hex technology, the Arcane. They're conflicted with that, and that creates a lot of tension between the two characters. And I love the way this rift between the characters impacted Victor as a character, as we start to see a bit more of a narcissistic side to him that still does want to help people, but we see a darker side to his character that is looming forward, and we see him go down a dark route. And I'm going to get into some spoilers here so I could better explain what I am talking about. So be warned from then on, there will be some major spoilers just so I could be able to properly explain what I'm talking about. With Victor's character, he essentially becomes the main bad guy because everything that happened before with him getting a new metal body and how Jace was trying to help save him, he was able to do that, but Victor doesn't trust Piltover anymore and tried to help people in his own way by using his new abilities to, in a way, take over their bodies, but still give them some freedom and some semblance of hope and happiness, and save them from whatever disease or what they concocted or they're dying. He's doing his best to try and actually help everyone. And for a while in Act 2, I really admired that. And after that act and everything goes wrong when Vi and Jinx were able to find this beast and find out that it is actually Vander, their father. Then the two characters, along with the little girl Isha, who Jinx befriends for a while after saving her from a group of gang members, start to form this nice relationship with each other, giving Jinx some semblance of hope and purpose in her life. Once again, after everything that happened in season 1, they were able to find Vander and finally reunite all once together as a family. And so they bring him to Victor, but Jace comes back from a time loop and we are unsure of what's going on. But he goes on a journey to Victor, and then we see him just kill him on the spot. And Mbessa is trying to take over this land and trying to use Victor to her own advantages. And it leads to Isha sacrificing herself to save Jinx, which leads Jinx down another dark path in which she becomes suicidal. After everything that has happened, the characters thought that they were able to have a family, but this is Arcane. Nothing could go right. This further pushes Victor to think that he needs to be in control of everyone and everything in order to there be some semblance of peace, or at least his version of peace, which leads to him becoming a narcissistic dictator that still does believe in what he's trying to do and he's trying to help people, but it's going towards a much darker route that's going to end up destroying the entire world due to his abuse of the arcane magic for his own gains. So Jace, Caitlyn, Piltover, and Zaun are now forced to try and team up together to try and go up against Victor and his army of metal soldiers, and Ambessa, who is manipulating Victor in the city of Piltover in order to gain its technology so that she can be free from the clutches of the Black Rose, as Mel has also been trapped by them, unbeknownst to her mother. And because of that, she's able to gain some power from that and understanding of her heritage and past. And while I wish the show could have done a better job exploring that plotline a bit more and fleshed it out, because I feel like while I do like Mel's character and what she's doing here, it feels kind of superfluous from the actual plot and felt like its own separate thing. And I felt like it just kind of dragged a bit because of that. All the other plot lines connected much better than the Mel plot line together and were a lot more engaging. And this is where I get to some of my issues. The pacing of this season is fast. There's so much that happens here, and while I do admire the show doing a lot of visual storytelling for you to understand what is happening, it still feels like at times that there could have been a bit more time spent with some of the characters and understand what they're feeling at the moment. Like with Vi, I like the direction they took with this character, but I feel like I could have spent a lot more time with her in this depressed emo state after her fight with Jinx and Caitlyn in the end of Act 1, which was a visceral and an exciting fight sequence. And I love how it pushes Caitlyn's revenge plot forward, and she starts to become a much more dictating type of character that is willing to do whatever it takes just to get the satisfaction of revenge. And this causes a rift between the two characters of Caitlyn and Vi, and you're unsure whether or not they're going to be able to make amends with one another. But as I said, the pacing does feel a bit rushed, and even that aspect of the plot does feel like it wasn't explored that much even. And I felt like the show could have done a little bit more with a few, maybe 2 or 3 episodes, just to expand these plot lines a bit more and make them more fleshed out. I mean, we got a whole episode of Echo and Heimerdinger trying to get back to their timeline after they and Jace were messing with the Hex Gates, and they find themselves trapped in different realities, and they're trying to get back to their current one. And then they learn certain things about what is really happening and how things could have been. And once they gain that knowledge, they're ready to go back to their present time. And this whole episode was really engaging. From Jace figuring out what is really going on and what has led to this moment in the season, he is ready to go back to his time to try and fix everything that he and his partner caused. While Echo is learning that there probably is some hope for Jinx and for a better future for Piltover that he never thought that there could be. He lost all hope as a child, really. And that's really sad to know that. And really cathartic when he starts to think there could be some hope for some of my friends and for my future to be better if things are able to go this way. And I really love that episode and how it explored Echo's characterizations and Heimerdinger as a character as well. And it all culminates in a very satisfying finale in which Jinx and Vi were able to put aside their differences and their past to be able to work together to try and defeat Victor, alongside the help of Caitlyn, Echo, and everyone else who is still loyal to them. I loved this finale and how it concluded their character arcs. With Jinx, she's been in a very depressive state, especially after losing Isha, and while Isha may not have had a lot of characterization, she still is a really cute character, was able to give Jinx a lot of hope for a better future. I love their dynamic, especially with Silva, I believe her name is, the henchman of Silco, and how these two characters, Jinx and her, are starting to get along. Like, there are some people who are starting to look up to Jinx as a leadership figure, and she doesn't feel emotionally ready for that because she is still trying to cling on to some sort of hope between her and Vi, but is conflicted with that and her desire to try and just blow things up in the world around her, and her self-destructive nature is also looming through her mind, and it's just, she's in a very conflicted state right now. And I love the way that is explored with this character, and how when she finds out that Vander is still alive within this beast, she immediately clings on to a hope for her family, especially when Isha is the one that is pushing her towards that. Instead of going back to the finale, this is where everything comes to a head. Jace and Victor were able to actually talk things out, and Jace was able to convince Victor that the way he's going about things and trying to help people is wrong. And I love the way that this finale concludes their characters. They're the ones who started this whole ordeal of the arcane magic being in the forefront of Piltover first place, and how it concludes with these characters now trying to stop what they have created together. And the tragedy between Vi and Jinx now working together finally after so many episodes of them being against one another, with Jinx unfortunately setting aside everything that happened before just to be able to save her sister and sacrifice herself just to stop Vander from going on a further rampage, was really emotional, and it really did get to me. And Mel and Caitlyn, honestly, I get what they're doing with Mel and Ambessa's characterization. I love the fight between these two characters and Ambessa, but still, as a storyline, I felt like their storylines were kind of forgotten and not as impactful as the other storylines. Like with Vi, Jinx, Victor, and Jace, like, it doesn't feel as fleshed out because the show did not have enough time to really explore that. And this is all due to the pacing. The writing, for the most part, is really good. I really like the writing of this season. I love the emotional weight, the action, the animation. Everything else about this season was fantastic for me, except the pacing. It kind of made a few emotional moments not hit as hard for a few characters as I hoped it would, and I wish the show could have spent a little bit more time exploring the characters and what they're trying to do. And that is my biggest issue with season 2. The pacing at times is way too fast, and it left a lot of moments not as emotional as I hoped it would. And it doesn't help that the ending itself is really abrupt and just ends the way it does. It doesn't feel like there is any long-lasting moments where characters are reflecting what they've done, except for Vi and Caitlyn. And I believe this is due to the show going to go to other shows and try and explore some of these other characters, as some of their journeys are now just starting, like with Mel and maybe Jinx if they decide to bring her back to life somehow. I don't know. But still, I feel like this ending could have been a whole lot more impactful. I mean, it's still a great ending, but I feel like it could have been even better if the pacing wasn't as rushed as it was, which is my biggest issue of this entire season. But still, I can safely say that I absolutely love Season 2. It has too many high moments for me to dislike it at all. There's still a lot of great animated sequences here, great action sequences. The music is stellar, not just the score, but the actual soundtrack and the songs themselves are great. From Sucker to The Line, fantastic. Like Come Play by Stray Kids. It's just an overall fantastic soundtrack once again, and even better than Season 1. The action, the animation, some character moments are even better than Season 1. But as a whole, I still prefer Season 1 still. It just was a lot more compelling as a story. I still highly recommend Arcane League of Legends Season 2, and I'm going to give it an A. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.